Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us at our APPI Learn by Doing webinar series. Today, we are going to do our focus on analysis and judging. I've done several others on this, and I'm not sure you can ever do too many. There is so much to this, and it is so important because here is where indeed you make your prediction. So here's going to be the outline of what we're going to be doing today. First, I'm going to give a overview in a somewhat different form on what AOV is all about for newbies and review for many of you who have been becoming and know about this already. And then I want to do this analysis and judging and really get into this approach, which I basically slightly modified, basically stole, if you will, from Joe McMonagle. I'm now calling it about 50% G. And then we'll do another prediction for a month long. Another prediction with a remote viewing session, judging, and then we'll discuss those in some detail based on what the viewers provide in terms of both your remote viewing sessions and judging sessions. So you'll use the judging sessions here. And as part of the analysis judging, I will go through two examples from two of the coordinates. So you'll see those coordinates as well. Okay, so here's what ARV really is all about. And this is a linear time chart. So in linear time, you start with your remote viewing session, and that's when you as the viewer view the target that you'll experience during your feedback session. That, in fact, will be your task to describe and sketch what you see at feedback time. So your consciousness, and it's very important to get deep, deep, deep in your gut, and after you do this a few times for yourself, it begins to get down there, and yet there's still so much disbelief. And that's something which you just simply work on as a newbie over time. But what you're doing here is acknowledging that consciousness has access to information from distant places and distant times. And those of us who have been around a while sort of take that for granted because we see it so often. And our task is to see it more and more often. But the reality is the universe is put together in what's called non-locality, a non-local way, and you can get information from the future. So your feedback session is going to be something you're going to see and you are going to do in the future with a feedback target. And we'll be talking more about that. But that is your job here to describe what you're going to see and personally experience here. So you're going to be in touch with yourself. Now, this was done in straight remote viewing. It was called outbounders. They would take the remote viewer to the actual target afterwards, a target which was chosen randomly. He had no way of knowing it, but he would experience it. Well, this is the same here. The difference is that we judge this transcript. So this is where you're going to make what I call an action judgment, wagering, for example. But in the remote viewing days, they might actually adjust where they put a satellite to look for things. What makes this different is we are doing what is called binary associative remote viewing, and we are going to make a prediction based on this target to answer a yes-no question. So yes, no, it might be over, under, up, down, but it's basically a binary question. And now we have two possible targets. One would be associated with yes, one would be associated with no. Here's where the word associated comes in for associative remote viewing. The actual target that you will see at feedback time will always, always capitalize, be associated with what actually happens in terms of yes or no. So if the answer is yes, you're going to see the target associated with yes. If the answer is no, you're going to see the target associated with no. Believe it or not, that's associative remote viewing. Two targets, two possible targets. Very important. I said that wrong. Really get that. I said it wrong so I can emphasize it, right? There are two possible targets. Only one will be the feedback target, the actualized target, the target you will see and work with during your feedback session. The other one, and I haven't used this word very often before, but I kind of like it. I'm going to use it now. The other possible target is a decoy target. Okay. Your job is to ignore that. Focus totally on the feedback target because that is your job here, your task.
Marty.
Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if you align with this. I talked to Deborah Katz about this, and it really helped out for us to think about the judging photos as photo sites only. They are only photo sites. The target actually is your feedback session or your feedback. So the target's the feedback, and that's the only time we should use that word. And then when we're referencing judging, we're only talking about photo sites. So it helps keep that division within the mind, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, and I have no problem with that. I've used that approach before. I think the word possible, as you'll see, in fact, I'm going to talk about that now. The word possible tries to get at the same thing. But here, let me go a little further, and I'll be able to connect with that. So here's another way of saying the same thing, but now because what we're doing is indeed precognition, we are describing and sketching something we're going to see in the future. Precognition means knowing. Over here, you know the truth for sure. Well, knowing the truth for sure in a non-local world is a pretty special place. And this is why I really like the idea that purposeful precognition, which is what we're doing, begins with your feedback session. This is a really important session because you know the truth. That's what you know the truth here. Now, your tasking, as we indicated before, but is simply put, describe and sketch your, and we will have a 6-digit coordinate in our approach. So describe your feedback target. Some people use letters. This is a tag, but it's a tag associated with this target, the target you're going to see during your feedback session. Now, what is the feedback target? This is where what John was just talking about. The feedback target is indeed a photo site. As I've indicated, it's one of two possible ones, but until you know it here, it's just possible. Only here do you know it as a target. Now, what is a photo site? A photo site refers to a particular site location, a particular place at a particular time, that particular time when the photo was taken. So there's a snapshot taken, okay? So the photo site refers to that time, and location. Now, a little bit more to it. Consciousness is expected to move to that site at the time the photo was taken and to describe and or sketch what can be readily verified or inferred from the photo. Often in remote viewing, people will be asked to describe a location, and then they'll move up and they'll describe things over a wide area. And for many purposes, that's very valuable. In associative remote viewing, your task is to describe what can be readily verified or inferred from the photo. Okay, you've got to take that in, and guess why? That's so that you can do judging. If you tell me, if this were the picture and you tell me that there are 10 other ships over here, I can't verify that from this photo. That just doesn't help me in associative remote viewing. So part of this tasking, implicit because of the definition of PhotoSite, is to describe on our sketch what can be readily verified or inferred from the photo. Now, examples of this, and one of the most important, are what I call first impression gestalts. And we're going to be talking about that in terms of judging, but this tends to be what comes up first in many, not always, but in many remote viewing sessions. And then, of course, you can get all of your physical senses. This information comes through your nervous system from somewhere deep down in this non-local quantum mechanical world that we, in fact, live in. But how does it get to your consciousness? It's through your nervous system. So you can get visuals, color, shapes, dimensions, sounds, smells, tape, tactile sensations. People also feel things in parts of their body which they can report. Emotions, anything which your nervous system can supply. Okay, so this is the task as we say it simply, but it's connected to possible photosites as I've just defined. Now, we've talked about two possible photosites, but remember, the target is the one you'll see at your feedback session and interact with. That's part of the process here, is to interact with it so you exchange information, you entangle information with your remote viewing session. So the idea here really is simple. The magic is in doing this precognition, but the idea, frankly, is really simple. Describe and sketch what you're going to see during your feedback session. Now, I would like to introduce what I call now a sub-cue, and that is, since there are, and we have to acknowledge that there are two possible photo sites, and that's all they are. When you're doing remote viewing sessions, they're just possible photo sites. You totally ignore that and jump here. But knowing that they're there and seeing how often people will describe things which overlap in the two, and to make your job easy for your poor judge. Someday, as remote viewers get better and better at this, I believe judging is going to be less and less important. Because if a remote viewer gives a really, really good description, the judging turns out to be really easy. However, often many of us are just not there yet. So this sub-cue, and put this sort of down again in your subconscious, not just intellectually, but the sub-cue is to emphasize aspects of the target, what is going to turn out to be the target that you see at feedback. Emphasize those aspects of the target that are different from the decoy possible target. So 2 possible photo sites. Your job is to really emphasize, in addition, emphasize those aspects which are different from the decoy. And when we choose the 2 possible targets, we try to make them as different as possible, but there always tends to be overlap of one sort or another. So think about that as your sub-cue. And remote viewing tasks can be very complicated. This is not much of a complication, but I would like you to think of that as the sub-cue in the tasking. Now, let's get to analysis judging. The job here is going to be ultimately to come up with the answer of a yes or no, but we do that by matching our transcript to these 2 possible targets, 2 photo sites. Here's an example, and I want to make clear some of the other points I've made. If you look at that first blush, man, those are very different, aren't they? Those were very different if you look at them. However, you could say on your transcript, man-made. Look, they're both man-made. You could say, structure. They both have structures. You could say vegetation. Look back here. There's some vegetation. And yet, these are very different. It's the Gestalts that are very different. It's a possibility of doing a sketch on your sheet, which would be very long and maybe wiggly, and say not only man-made, but go a little further. You might get something like road. We still know that the sub wants to give low-level words, at least early on in the kind of 1, 2, 3 page sessions that we tend to do. But you certainly could sketch something and say words which would be different from this one versus this one. And that's what you want your sub to do. If this turned out to be the target, you'd want to say, maybe many man-mades, rectangular. Water, of course, is the big distinguishing gestalt here. There's no water here at all. You want to find pink. You want to find things which will allow you to easily distinguish these. And often that's done with sketches. A very quick sketch picking up, what's going on in here would quickly be able to distinguish what's going on there. So we always do work to make these different in some aspects, and your focus really should be on those differences as much as possible to make your poor judge life easier. And that goes self-judging or independent judging. When you're wearing your self-judging hat, let's make it as easy as possible for you. Now, this association we talked about is completely random. And so all you do when you judge is do matches with the photos, and hidden from you will be this association, which you'll find out at the end, but it's completely random. Okay, let's talk about this about 50% G. The basic idea comes from Joe, and look, you have to listen really carefully to him, right? Been around a long time, probably the best public remote viewer around. He indicates that the Gestalt, first impression Gestalts, and I call these FIGs, first impression Gestalts, are worth 50% of the weight in the judging. what do I mean by this gestalt, this first impression gestalt? It's the thing that when you first look at something, it smacks you in the face. It gets you right in the ballpark of this target. There can be more than one fig, more than one first impression gestalt. Hey, the example we saw had water, and then all those buildings. Those were kind of the gestalts there that struck me. But you should know, different people might very well get first impression gestalts which are different to each other. Now, the other 50% comes from the A/B counting, where this is where you mark the elements individually on your transcript and you count them up and you take a percentage. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But so this is the big picture, and this is more like the specifics. The words, I'm just putting this here now, that get associated with your transcript, and we're about to do a little exercise, but newbies should just know you can get all the kinds of physical senses that your responses to your nervous system from all your physical senses, and often they come up with words like here, and they're kind of, I don't know how, low-level words, the kind of word a young child would use to describe something. It's not high-level naming. You don't name the thing. You don't say Eiffel Tower, but you might say man-made, metal, triangular, those kinds of words, big. And this is a list of those, and I'm happy to share this list with you. And this is just what tends to come up naturally. And then, wait a second. And then the sketches, of course, are very important. We particularly like those because they tend to be non-analytical completely. And you begin to learn when these come up non-analytically, the words, but the sketches are almost always non-analytical. They come in as images and usually partial images. So that's, an overview what a transcript will look like. And it's so interesting because the remote viewing session turns out to be pretty straightforward. What you have to learn is just to take what you get and keep your analytical mind out of it. And just be open to getting stuff from your deep consciousness. And I want us to get into that. So I'm going to do some examples with figs, these first impression gestalts. I'm about to show you a photo site, okay? And what I'd like you to do is just be open to receiving information from it right now in present time, and be aware of your very first impressions. Okay, it's those very first impressions that this fig is that's going to count for 50% when your judge looks at this. Okay, so are you ready? Did you get that? I probably confused you, but some of you, I'm going to do it one more time. Put in the chat box for everybody, what were your first impressions of that? I didn't do it as cleanly, but it was clear. Okay, that's interesting. Other of you? Go ahead. Did you get no impressions? Okay. Good. Good. Shipping water. Okay, so you're getting it. Now let's I should be able to go back and forth fast. Oh, yeah, I see. Okay, so now there it is. So water, clearly. A big brown boat, that was very good, of course. Ship and water, blue and brown. Um, this is like an example of when, and of course I did it slower than that, but they'll flash things on a screen and the subconscious mind gets stuff and it gets these kinds of gestalts. Now I want to show you something else. I want to do another one now. And this is a website that you can go to practice this sort of thing. You can even just do this to do practice remote viewing sessions. Because, and I will put this in the chat box, but I'm now simply going to hit refresh. There's going to be another picture. Pick up the gestalts. What did you get that time?
Sorry, I didn't see anything.
Okay, interesting. Yes, just put in what you get. Don't look at what other people got. What was your church? Interesting. Candelabra. Fuzzy circle.
Those are nouns. They're not necessarily gestalts.
Well, a noun could be a gestalt. I mean, a city is a gestalt, right? But you see, it's the first impression. These are great first impressions. Okay, let's go back to that one. You see, different people like the circle. Okay, now someone was good enough to see the whole candelabra, and another person got a church out of this. You get different kinds of things. Let's do it one more time. But you are getting the idea of what comes in first. This is the first impression thing. Let's do one more this way. Okay. What did you get that time? It was tiny. Two blobs, outdoor race. Okay. And it was tiny. Let me put this. Some of you may want to use this in the future. I'm going to put it in the chat box. Which here it is. Okay. And there are like in this one there are like 8,000 random pictures. All the times we looked at different pictures and we thought they were reasonable before we paired them, and lots of other reasons. So there are lots and lots of pictures in here, and every time you do a refresh you get a new one. First time you go to it you get one, and you can make that your target. Now I want to do and this is good practice, but even for newbies and old bees, I want to do one now, which is precognitive. So right now, on a sheet of paper, just get quiet for a few minutes, not even a few minutes, 1 minute, and just for fun, because I want you to get a sense from your subconscious of a gestalt. And then we're going to show another picture. So what are the gestalts, the figs, first impression gestalts that you get that is going to be associated with the next picture, which nobody knows what it's going to be? And it might be a sketch, it might be, put it on a little sheet of paper. Just a one-time exercise, just for fun. Okay, so let's go back here and we'll get a new one. Did you get matches with that? Your mountain road was interesting, Arthur, for this one. But you can see, vegetation, rectangles, what other kind of gestalts? But I think you have the idea now. Hopefully you have the idea of this first impression gestalts. And those of you who have done remote viewing sessions, I think you would agree, and if you don't, speak up. But I think you would agree that very often these are really important parts of your sessions. Okay. You agree with that, John? Probably one of the longest remote viewers here.
Yeah. First gestalts are important. I don't know. The whole session is important. I prefer to, because you can get it wrong, or you could have decoding problems. So I'd rather get into it more personally.
Well, no, and as I say, the gestalt doesn't always have to come first, but I agree with Joe that it should be about 50% of the judging. If you don't get the gestalt on the transcript, it's probably not a really good session. You've missed something pretty important.
Artie, I got something like half a daisy, which I can believe that the stairs were sort of like that. So it made some kind of contact, but we didn't even have a
cool down or anything. No.
Well, yeah, but we didn't even have a target designation number or whatever. So that was pretty good, huh?
Yeah, not bad. I mean, it was like vegetation-like, and there was lots of vegetation. That was one of the gestalts there.
Well, yeah, but that was the daisy was kind of like the stairway. But this is how I keep missing these things. Is that you see the stairway right in the center there?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like a daisy. But I do get that a lot.
Okay. Okay. Let's move on now, and let me just make clear how you calculate this. If the first impression kind of gestalt, so now you're a judge and you're looking at the whole transcript and you're going to make a judgment between 0 to 1 on whether or not the fig in fact matches A, and you're going to give it a 0 and 1, and then a B, 0 to 1. So and that will be 50%, for each. You're going to do this for PhotoSite A and for PhotoSite B because you always get 2 confidence rankings. And then the element ratio will be 0 to 1 based on how many of your elements match PhotoSite A as a percentage of the total elements. So that's what ratio means. So you get these 2 numbers. And then there's just a simple connection to the TAR confidence ranking, which is just a linear connection to 0 to 7 from the number 2. So that's it. Now here's the TARG again, a reminder. The 0 and 1 are no or little correspondence. 2 is what we would call really random, and you get a sense of that. I mean, if you just get a few elements, and this is the way TOG used words for it, we've come up with, Joe came up with this analytical approach. 3 now, he says, yep, a mixture of correct and incorrect elements, but enough of the former to indicate that the viewer has made contact with the target. So this is, yes, psychic it's a 3. 4 gets up to really good correspondence. Now you're feeling really comfortable that your consciousness went to the target and you described it, and this was a psychic event, not just chance. We use 3.5, halfway between the 7, to be wagerable. So that's sort of the number that we use, and that fits in nicely with this approach that we're now promoting here. A 5 is really strong. 4 is strong, really good correspondence. 5, he uses new words, unambiguous, unique, matchable elements. If I ask you, why did you give it a 5? You're going to be able to give some really good specific things that were rather specific to that target. And then a 6, you begin to get to where you're naming the function of the target. This is where the analytical kind of stuff comes in. And then a 7 is sort of spot on. You might really name the target and virtually no incorrect information. Notice as you're going up, you have less and less incorrect information, and that's the second part of the AB approach that we're talking about here. So the about 50% G, and this is the simple formula. You go from 0 to 1 with your fig. You have your element ratio 0 to 1. You divide by 2, and then you multiply this. So this gives you a number of 1, and then you multiply it by 7, which gives you this 0 to 7. The equivalent formula is just this, fig plus the element ratio times 3.5. And to make it really easy, because these numbers, you should know when we have different viewers look at these and do independent judging on one transcript and one photo site, they'll differ by about 1. So just using a chart like this is good enough. You add your fig plus the element ratio, each is 0 to 1, you get up to 2, and here you are. And seeing a 1 gets you to 3.5, because mostly figs and element ratios are between 0 and 1, but hey, sometime you might very get the fig right on, okay, and that'll get you up to 3.5, then your element ratio will bring you above there. It's rare to get a good element ratio without getting the first impression gestalts right. Okay, so that's really with the focus on judging what ARV is all about. Are there any questions or comments at this point? The next step is we're going to go into previous predictions that were done, and we'll talk about those, and we'll be able to talk about the judging there as well. I'm glad you're having fun. That's a key part of all this. Okay, and that's what we're going to do now. We're going to know the feedback for the past practice, so that's exactly what we're doing now, Patricia. Okay, no comments, then let's go forward. So this is the coordinate, and the 774413. Some of you may have done it, some of you may have not, but I've published it. People can come here to get it, the final target, but I'm going to show you how we get it in the winning entanglements system, which is many of you are using that system. And to do that, I have to go here. And Let me make sure. I want to make sure I've got the right one, and I do. So this is the feedback, and this is the typical, and I hope you can read this. I can make it bigger. This is the typical way that we get feedback in We, and this is from a previous webinar workshop group. The event is, will the SPY daily price close under 246? And now you see that the winning side was no. This was actually a pass prediction. Okay. So, but the correct answer, in fact, is no. We passed on this one as a group. And then I usually write something. I've been writing something like this now. Do your personal feedback session, whether you have a hit, miss, or pass. There truly is always something you can learn about your consciousness. Okay, and yourself. So then all you do is click on this, and everybody normally when they do this will have their own unique coordinate and their own unique feedback target. And so that's why you need to put in your name. I'm the representative of this here, so I'm just putting in my name. Everybody who did this has the same target. And you click here, and there you go. So this is how you get your feedback target. It's associated with the coordinate. I always recommend people say it out loud at remote viewing time and feedback time, but the viewer is in charge. And there you go. The next step would simply be to do your judging, and that's not simple, and we're going to, do your feedback session, and then put your comments in here and hit submit, and you're done. So I've looked this one up, so let's go back here now. So I copied it from there. This is the target. And I'm glad you're here, John, because I'm only going to show, because we only really have time, because we're going to do a prediction to show one from each of these. And it happens I chose yours here. And even though we passed, it was PhotoSite 1, the A PhotoSite that was the winning one. And I'm putting these here together. And your feedback session here, notice we call this the A-B approach because the way I've been suggesting people do is they put an A next to what matches. John uses a color code, which is just as good. It's exactly the same idea. But he didn't do this new Gestalt system, so I thought it might be fun to do it ourselves. So John, you're hopefully doing the session here, but in a way, why don't I do it here? Because I want to do first the Gestalts, okay, and it's very clear you got outdoor, right, which you marked as a 1, of course. You also got water, you got mineral from the Gestalt big picture, you got cool and cold. I would say you nailed this Gestalt. Wet. What do the rest of you think? You see the things, the colors. I would give you, I don't think you missed anything here in the Gestalts. What do any of you, put in the chat box what you think. Do you think John captured this Gestalt completely? Huh? Would you give it lower? Would you give it a 0.75? Would you give it a 1? I want you guys to commit because you're going to have to do this when you're judging your own sessions, and we're going to be doing that next. Okay.
Hard to tell.
And quantitatively, in other words, you said hard to tell. So you think in terms of Gestalts, maybe he only got what? A 0.5? And you too, Patricia, trying to make this quantitative is hard. That's what judging is about. So, we're doing a feedback session, but remember, the focus here is on judging, and I want to see whether or not I agree using that technique that his A was 4.5. Yep, he got the colors as well. Though he didn't even mark it here. See, so his judging, again, when you do your feedback sessions, first you do a feedback session, really emphasize this. We get into this. I'm feeling cold now. I am really feeling cold, and I'm seeing this mountain, and I would draw like a little sketch, and I'm just emphasizing everything I can about this in terms of my feedback session. Okay, and I'm looking here and I'm circling outdoor. Oh yeah, I did that great. Oh yeah, look, boy, I got these gestalts. I do that during my feedback session. Okay, look, I even said water here, waterfall. It's not a waterfall, but boy, I got the water. Okay, well, see, you're finding it hard to commit to 0 to 1 how well he did on the gestalts. I think we all agree he did well. I frankly would give it a 1. If somebody else gave it a 0.75, couldn't complain. Okay? So let's just say as a group, 0.75 to 1. You feel more comfortable with that? Okay. So we've done that. Now let's take a look at how we do the counting. Well, for A, and that's the only one I can judge here because I'm not going to look at the other one. Let's see if we agree now. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we've got 13 total matches. And then to get our percentage, we just count up all of the potential ones. Turns out we probably should add those now, but let's do the judging the way he would have done it there. But do notice that he missed something here. Certainly missed the white. But maybe that's because he feels there's too many whites here. But in any case,
I don't count. Those are colors that I don't mark up even if they're correct.
Okay. But nevertheless, let's go through the procedure here and see what we've got here. So we've got 10 that matched. So how many total? So 10, let me add 11, 12, 13. Let's look at the sketches. Yeah, he marked that one's right. The curve, well, he didn't give us credit for that, but let's call that, okay, 14. Motion is wrong, that's 15. I can't remember if I counted these. I think I did. So I'm getting maybe 15, maybe 16. So let me do 13 out of 16. I've got a calculator here. 13 divided by 16. Oops. So 13 divided by 16 is 0.81. Okay, so if I add 0.8 to the 0.75, I get 1.55 to 1.8. Okay, so that's what I got on the 0 to 2 scale. Not really particularly difficult. Okay, you're giving him a 1 for the Gestalt. Good. So if I just simply look at this chart, 1.55 to 1.8, I get 5 up to about a 6. So using that approach, if John would have used it and made the same kind of Gestalt judgments, he would have gone even higher than he did here. But nevertheless, it's in a a reasonable agreement. So John, you get that approach now?
Yeah, we went over it that one time.
Right. And the Gestalt, would you agree your Gestalts were high, maybe as high as a 1 or maybe 0.75?
Yeah, I think those were right on for sure.
Okay. So this approach would have given you even a higher one. Let's do one more. 55116. And I have to go back here. Okay. And the reason that number doesn't appear here is because everybody normally would have their unique number. It turns out this number is the one that does the event. Okay, so we're now doing the other one. I am going to put in my email, and now we'll get the feedback, and there it is. So the feedback for 555116, those of you who did this, immediately get kind of a response. And let's go back. Let's go back here. So there's the feedback target for those of you that did this. And here's the one example I chose. I don't know if Evelyn is here. No, it doesn't look like she is. But she'll come back and do a feedback session. What I would like to do, and I haven't done this yet, so let's do it together, is sort of get into the judging as we do the feedback. But the first thing I would do is, okay, and I think I put those two together here. So as the feedback session, I'm looking at this, I'm looking at this, I'm looking at my transcript, and I do look for Gestalts, feedback-wise, because I believe the Gestalts are important, and I had the partial intention, knowing how the judging was going to go, to get the Gestalts. And do I see any here? Feather, string, green. I don't see them here. Okay. Turned out she got a hit. This was the hit 3.5. That's the one she chose. But 3.5 is pretty low level. Let's see, do we see anything here which is a Gestalt? I'm not seeing anything. Do you see anything? Let's look at her A's. String, green. Well, curly. But I don't see that as Gestalt level. Blowing across, bumpy. If I was an independent judge, just like you are,
I don't see any Gestalts, but she has a lot of descriptors, which is good.
right.
A few nouns, which is also good.
Say that again? I just didn't hear the last thing you said.
I said she has a lot of descriptors and few nouns.
Yeah.
They're both good.
Well, this is as close. Actually, the sketch, not much, but you can see here you know, looking like that. You'd be happier if it was in a bit of a circle, but this has got that shape. I would say the closest as I could come is with the sketches, and maybe I would give her a 0.2, 0.1, but that's all. And some of you may see 0, but I'm going to write down for the second one a 0.2. And again, different judges would different, but I do see the sketch having a lot of this characteristic right here. Okay, and that's a major gestalt in here, is these things, but low level. Okay, now let's count. We're doing the A. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Actually, there's a little a and a little a, so that's still 12, so that's 13. Oh, looks like she counted it up. Okay, we're checking her. There's 13 and a half, 14, 14 and a half, 15, 16. Huh, look at that. Okay, so she got 16. Now, how many totals? Well, what did she miss? I sort of gave her credit for these here, and so did she. So let's see, does she have any straight B's? Okay, so this is 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. I suppose we should count halves for these. So, yeah, because we only gave them half, so that's 22. I could count it from scratch, but this is shorter. And there were 2 halves here, so that's 23. Okay. So that's 16 out of 23. Let me just do the arithmetic. I know I'm spending a lot of time on this, and I have to tell you why. I happen to think the judging is extraordinarily important because I think it represents a very large fraction of why people get misses. Okay, so this time I got a 0.7. So I add the 0.2 to the 0.7 and I get 0.9 in my judgment, which puts you just under 3.5, but close to it, which is what she gave herself. So I think the bottom line point here to get is this is an analytical way to do it for some people who just don't like the targ words, but you can go between both of them and you should feel comfortable with this. Yeah.
What are you considering a gestalt or a first impression again? Would that not be the ideogram?
The ideogram actually captures the gestalts in its ideogram way, plus lots of other information. One of these days, John has promised to give a whole one of these classes on ideograms and their meaning, because they've really been studied and many people consider them very important. But I think the ideogram captures the gestalts plus. The first impression gestalt is just that. It's when, if you were to quickly look at a picture, what do you get? And we did exercise on that.
But I want to say, like, our traditional CRV method, or I think the way I learned would be like the ideogram would be the only way that we capture that SFIG. are you saying maybe add another thing where if we get a picture in our mind, like you were taking us through those exercises, short exercises, write that impression down too and consider that the fig?
Well,
Well, if you're
if
doing
that's what you
CRV, you
get,
should,
if you're in
yeah.
the CRV approach, you do sketches the second, right? Stage 2. Um, but you're right. In the original AB approach, the first thing you're putting are the big picture gestalts. That is the first part of the CRV thing. That would be gestalts. Sure, that's where you put structure and stuff like that.
Okay, because to me, a gestalt is like on that picture that you just had of the flower.
Yeah.
Maybe I would get like an image of a mandala.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of like, to me, that's kind of like a gestalt. It's like, but it's a noun. It's not a descriptor. It's actual, but it's gestalt. And so would I write that down and decode that or something?
Well,
Or?
you always, yeah, well, you always write them down. See, I notice here they didn't with this gestalt. With the CRV technique, with this, you would then indicate your feeling at the gestalt level of what this meant. Was this a person? That often is a person or maybe a living thing. Had she done vegetation for this, that would be a gestalt, right?
Natural
Okay.
would probably be a
Or,
good gestalt for that.
or
Natural.
yeah, or natural. If she had done that, which is part of the CRV approach, she would have gotten the gestalt. Um,
Okay.
so so yes, it's related, but you might not get it all except through the whole session. It's not like you have to get it at the beginning. Um,
Okay.
but I think you do have the idea of what the Gestalt is. If you would have got a mandala, that's kind of interesting. That's an interesting one. But yeah, I could see where a mandala kind of approach might work here, and you might, whether or not you'd make that a 1 or not. You as a judge would have to decide in terms of the meaning and everything and what that means to you. Um, the, Judging has a lot of subjectivity to it. That's just the way it is. Um, but again, even with that subjectivity, usually the difference between different judges, if they are doing it carefully, is about 1. Now, I spent so much time on this because just recently we've been spending a lot of time on this quote displacement issue, where people um, say that they got a really good match to the decoy target. Um, in fact, just today there was an email I saw where someone sort of put misses in the same category as displacement, and that is clearly not true. A displacement means a really good description of the wrong target. So that's giving the wrong target a 5, 6, or a 7, in my opinion. I'm willing to call a legitimate 5 where there were unique descriptors, or using this new technique. You get up to a 5 and you get a miss. It's displacement. And displacement does happen. But in my opinion, and I am now beginning to go back into the database to the high scoring sessions and looking at them and seeing if I believe they're displacement. And I can tell you, I've seen some 7s that were not displacement. And those are usually done by newbies who were really excited that they got some part of it. And most of the words were way off and they didn't capture the gestalt, but one part was really good. And so they judged it as a 7, and they were really excited. Um, um, so I really believe that the displacement issue is overrated. Does it happen sometimes? Yes. Is it the primary cause of lower hit rates than we would like? I don't believe so. I believe it's the judging. And that's why I'm spending so much time on judging. I believe we should be doing a lot more passing, and holding out for the good sessions. And Judge says just treat what even we might call as displacement is just another miss. And he says we'll never really figure it out. I'm not sure that's true, but while there may be no such thing as displacement, there really is such a thing as misjudgments. And Arthur, before we formally went on a recording, went through an example at AppFest where he just saw how badly he misjudged because he got hung up on one being the right one very early on. And so he judged that really high and didn't really pay attention to all the matches with the other one. And that happens too often. It just happens too often. And so I really believe that when you get a miss, okay, when you get a miss, hey, do the extra work. Don't get lazy. Do the extra work. Go back and check your analysis judging phase. Just go back into where you would normally put your transcript and just click that link. Okay, just like there's a place where you did the judging. Whether you're an independent judge or a regular judge, you can go right back to that link and see both pictures and do it again. You know, I'm suggesting using this about T 50% G, but really go back and see if you judged it correctly. One other thing which I want to add to that is not only do you want to check your figs, but one of the things we learned many, many years ago, and Alexis was actually involved in some very early analysis we did with the confidence rankings, was this issue of how different was your description between the target and the decoy. Quantitatively, that means how different are your confidence rankings that you come up with. What Alexis found, and he was the first one to report this as far as I know, is that the hit rates were significantly higher when the CRs were different by 2 or more. Better when 1, but really much better when they were different by 2. Well, that means your descriptions for the 2 were very different. Okay, because you gave the confidence rankings were very different. Your one transcript described one much better than the other. Sure, there might have been some overlap. So look for that when you get a miss and see whether or not you should have passed. In fact, if you have, and I've seen this just recently, someone gave themselves a 3 and a 3.5. Well, the 3.5 was the prediction. In that case, I think they should have changed the 3 to a 3.5 or the 3.5 to a 3, and that then would have been a pass if the confidence rankings are the same. So, you know, you get to decide as the judge how you want it to go in, and I think we should make a lot more passes than we do.
Yeah, I put that in the chat box earlier, Marty. If it's close, I tend to pass 95% of the time. I want to see it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think two is probably a good number to aim for.
That's right.
And then one other thing, just so you know, there's a current experiment going on where they're going over a bunch of old session data and rejudging to see if judging has historically caused issues, or is it displacement. They're trying to differentiate that. That's an ongoing experiment right now.
Is Deborah involved in that?
Yeah, Deborah Katz et al. There's a handful of people on it, but it's her project. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's terrific. That's terrific. I'll look forward to seeing what the outcome of that is. So that's not the sleep project. Oh, that's right. She had done some other. Okay, I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully, and that'll get reported. I'd love her to do report that here. Maybe do.
Yeah, they're gonna publish it. I believe. I don't know if they're gonna apply for the work collier on that one as well, but they're definitely gonna publish that result. And the sleep thing, they are in the process of publishing right now, so they're already moving on.
Okay, that is excellent. Can we get information? Do you have some partial information from that?
I could, yeah, I can ask them and post it on a forum or something if you want to
Yeah,
update.
yeah. See how much they're willing to share now. Also ask Deborah. Not you're telling me this and you're in touch with her. I could ask her, but why don't you ask her if she'd like to discuss this in one of these classes here, or do a talk with on it, or something like that. I'd love I'd love to have her share this. So that's
Oh yeah, that's
great.
a good idea. Like I talk with, she's really good at that too.
Okay, that's great. Why don't you ask her if she'd like to do that? Okay, and notice I did have at the bottom something which is really important, and we saw that in the chat box. Learn something from all this. And the misses really give you an opportunity to learn and get better. And keep enjoying the process. We are right at the cutting edge here of something pretty magnificent, precognition. So just in fact, enjoy the fact that you're taking this on. Okay, let's do a new prediction. And the one I've chosen, this is, the collection of all of them. Pretty soon I won't be able to show all of them, but it looks like I still can. And what we're going to do is, will the New England Patriots win the 2018 Super Bowl 52? So there are odds out on that now and stuff like that. And from our perspective, it's just a simple yes/no question. So I like that. It's even listed that way. Turns out you don't even need to know. All we need to do is get a coordinate and we can proceed. I just wanted to emphasize here as we're getting into this now, and we're going to be doing this shortly, that this is all very personal. I'm now calling this idea of a persona the I-Psi. So this is each of you are having your own I-Psi remote viewing session here, which is part of your I-Psi ARVing. The tasks, describe and sketch. So even now you can begin setting your intention, attention, and expectation, which Joe and Ed May identified many years ago as being three critical ideas in doing good remote viewing. You have your intention to get a good description, you're paying attention to what your consciousness gives you, and you expect, you've got your confidence up. You get into this place where you're expecting it to happen. This is just the way the universe works, and you're going to partake in that now. And just, again, feel happy. Just don't you just know you're going to be doing better if you're in a good, positive, happy mood? So give me a smile. Give me a smile. Now, how do I get my coordinate? Well, everything is done through the internet and email. And I had marked this one. So as the general manager, I had put out this tasking for this group, and here you see it. Will the New England Patriots win the 2018? All we do is click here. And again, each of you, if you are doing this in one of the groups, and if any of you are not in groups, obviously email me and I'll set you up with one. So I'm representing us. Here's Webinar Workshop. This is the particular group, and we're going to do one coordinate. And so I will just simply click here, and we now have a coordinate. And those of you who want to start, who have heard and feel comfortable, there you go. Let me just fill up the whole screen with it. So it's 599235. You might say that out loud when you start your session. But for newbies and potential newbies who are just listening to this now, let me get this like this. So this is the way this looks, and the step that next is to get your transcript. You now have your coordinate, you have to get your transcript, and then once you have your transcript, you finish your remote viewing session, we will be uploading it to the server, and after it gets uploaded and you hit submit, so you have to have your copies of your transcript in here, then we'll be able to do the judging. And if you do independent judging, you send your transcript off to your judge. He comes to this page and he uploads it and submits it so he can see the two possible targets, the two photo sites. So now let's go back here. So we now have the coordinate. Everything is done online. This is kind of a format for some people who like to have sort of cues here. They might ask themselves if information stops for textures, color, smells. These are all the kinds of things that your nervous system can give you, dimensions, geometry, or a big one. But you can get everything. Briefly mentioned ideogram. It's when you write the coordinate, say it out loud. Typically, you can do something fast, 1-2 seconds. That's called an ideogram. Totally non-thinking, physical. It is a connection with the target right there. And some people will tap on it. Some people, it just simply gives them the initiation for getting this kind of information. Gestalts, first impressions, often come early. They're part of the CRV technique, which doesn't use this format, but getting the same sort of information, a place for sketches. AOLs are actually important to understand because one of the things which you do as you get into the field of precognition is begin to understand what comes from the intellectual mind, the analytical part of you, and the intuitive part of you, the part of you that's connected with this deep layer of consciousness. Some people call it's coming from the higher self, the deep self. The different words are used, but it's the deepest part of you, the non-analytical part of you, that gets attached in a non-local way to the target. And if you start using high-level words, like you label things, you get red and you get round, and then you say ball. Well, that was sort of the intellect trying to intellectually put together those two things. It might be a tomato. There are a lot of things which are red and round. And there's a different feeling when the intellect gets involved. And that's one of the things you actually learn. Okay, so right now on a sheet of paper, whether it's blank or, you might have something like this, and you feel free to email me and I'll send it to you. You can put a coordinate. You can put the preliminaries. You start with your name, date, and time. And this is still intellectual, but you're now transitioning over to a cool down, where the cool down is the place where you're really quieting the intellect, the day-to-day intellectual part of yourself, and getting ready to get the information from a deeper part of you that's connected with the deepest part of consciousness. And so you're emptying your mind of the day-to-day stuff. And you remember your cue. Describe and sketch your 599235 feedback target. This cool down phase is important. Joe thinks it's as much as 75% of the discipline, and that's getting in the state where you can receive information. I've got a link here, which I'll put in the box. Let me do that now, which is 10 minutes hemisync. I need to find it. Why can't I find it? Ah, there it is. Okay, sorry. And we're going to give 10 minutes for the remote viewing session, roughly. And this is where, when you're in the middle of it, you'll get a sense of when it's time to actually go to the paper and start your session. But roughly half of it is for cool down. And we have a quiet reminder when we're at 5 minutes. And then the other half is for doing your session. And there'll be a 1 minute warning when we're at the end of, when we're at 9 minutes. And, get quiet now. Move a little bit, get into a good space, take a few deep breaths. And then you cool down. You're going to set your intention, expectation, and witness with your attention what your sub provides. There's the link, 5 minute notice, 1 minute notice. I'm going to click the link now. Your 10 minutes begins. You have about 30 seconds left. You might get one more perception. Okay. Come on back to your normal state, as normal as you get. Day-to-day life state. Stretch a little bit. Feel good. You did another RV session. Congratulations. Okay, the next step we're going to go into is the judging. Get yourself into, um, just an intellectual. I would say judging is like 95% intellectual, but there's clearly a touch of intuition in there, if nothing else, to be open to how your subconscious was communicating with you. What I'd like you to do is do your judging. We're going to talk about it a little more, but then send your transcripts to me. I think you all have my email address after you do your judging, so we can all see how you marked it up. And then we'll discuss them. Okay. Listening. Okay, good, Lila. Yeah, different people have different things they want to listen to. I know one person listens to rock music, believe it or not. You're off into a different dimension, and everybody has their own personal preferences. HemiSync is one good one. Okay, so you've now got your transcript, and the next thing is to upload it. Nowadays, almost everybody uses smartphones or a scanner, and they upload it to their computer, and then they have to find it in their computer. So when they upload it, they put it someplace. I'm doing a dummy transcript. You would do the actual one because it becomes part of the record, which is stored on our server. So you can look at it later. Other people can look at it if they want to do independent judging after the fact, sort of what it looks like Deborah's doing, which is great. So you upload your transcript, and then you hit submit. And there we are. So these are the two photo sites, PhotoSite A, PhotoSite B. And now take your transcript, and I really would like you to use this about 50% G approach if you can. But ultimately, you're going to come up with a TARG scale, and the viewer is in charge. I'm not forcing anything here, but I certainly recommend paying attention to the first impressions that you would get. You'd certainly get very different ones here. And let me put maybe I wonder if I can get both. There's the TARG. Okay, so there's your TARG scale. just remember the fig according should count for roughly about half if you're using Joe's technique. And then once you do your judging compared to PhotoSite A and PhotoSite B, even before you upload it, simply in the chat box put something like CRA and then a number from 0 to 7 and CRB from 0 to 7. So that would be an example of what I hope to get from you, and then I'll tabulate that, and then we'll look at them all, and I'll make one group prediction based on that. But what's most important is the personal session, your personal judging, and your personal feedback session. In fact, in the chat box, if you just want to say A and the number 0 to 7, that would be pretty clear as well. Make it easy for you. But take as much time as it takes to do the judging. Thanks, John. And you'll send me your transcript. You mean to use it straight up as opposed to going through the Gestalt approach? John, I'm just reading what you put in the chat box. I mean, we both end off with the targ CR. And everybody be sure to do your judging totally independently. In fact, in the bottom of the chat box, you could send it to the facilitator. I don't remember what word they use. It might be my name. You might just send these CRs to me so others can't see it. Remember, we're intellectual, so John and I. Okay, thank you, Millie. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with passes. Nothing. In fact, I think that's one of the biggest problems. After we put time into it, people will feel like they really need to make it wagerable, and that's just not true. That's very counterproductive. Good. Thank you, Lila. Then you'll upload. For whatever reason, no viewer that I know, not even the best, Joe McMonagle, even Ingo, none of these guys were on every time. And so knowing when to pass is a very important part of the discipline. Okay. Arthur, you're still in process, and some of the rest of you? Okay, well, you keep doing, take as much time as you need. Let me see if anybody... Okay, John. I see yours. Okay. I got yours. Let's see if I can move. Let's move this one this way. And make it a little, just a little smaller. Okay, very good, John. Okay, very good. Lynn, I see yours. Thank you. Okay, those of you just please keep doing your judging, but I think I will start talking with John a little bit about this, first at the big picture level. A 3 and a 4, yeah, you specifically decided, John, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your 3 and 4 here? John, you still with me? John sometimes leaves, he works. Okay, so I will look at it and see what I see. He gave it a 4. As he says, he just feels comfortable with the words in the Targ scale and knows their meaning, and that was what he did. So his first Gestalts, and notice using the CRV approach, you in fact analyze his ideogram, which he has here, and he got bio and motion. So see now bio fits for both, though some people have somewhat different meaning. It might mean person, but I don't think so. So bio fits for both, but clearly motion is right here in terms of the Gestalt. He didn't even use this here. Oh yes, he did. He used it here. Okay, so for some reason, notice in his mind, and this is one of the reasons a lot of us like self-judging, in his mind, this was not biological. So for him, bio must mean person, or he didn't judge it right. But clearly the motion, which is really good in terms of a Gestalt, circular swirling. Let me see what else he got for Gestalt, looking at it how I would judge it. Salty, forceful, outdoor, natural elements, swirling, really good. Circular curved motion, mystical, cool, nature, windy dirt, motion. Okay. With bio being person and motion, I'd feel stronger if it was more like a person, but this is the symbol for person. So I would say his Gestalt on that is pretty good. I'm going to say 0.75. And then let's do a count. I'm focusing on B now. So he got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And the total here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Interesting. So 8 out of 24. 8 divided by 24 is 0.33. So this gets him plus 0.75. A little over 1.08, which is interesting. So with the 0.75, I would give him like a 3.5 to a 4. If I gave him a 1, he would definitely then be into the 4 level. So again, this analytical approach, which some people feel a lot of stress with the words, is giving nearly the same thing. Okay, let me see if I have any more here. Lynn?
Okay, I'm back. Did I miss something?
Oh, what you missed is I did, let me ask you this. For you, bio means living human beings?
Yeah, that's human. And if it's an animal, it's just like a mirror image of it. So instead of the loop going up, it would go down.
Really? Your ideograms are that? That's really cool, John. You really
Yeah, I
got to give
developed like
that
a little
lecture.
language.
I mean, you really need to do this. I mean, people would learn a lot from it.
I have it. I have collected quite a bit of the data and written it out. I just haven't put it into a format yet, and I'm still kind of collecting references. I tend to over prepare. I'm a grad student, so that's just what it is.
Okay. Um, yeah, I used to do that too. I just can't do it when you're doing so much stuff. You just have to put it together best you can, and people get what they need from it. But I really would look forward to having you discuss ideograms and pictograms and all of that good stuff. Um, okay, well, I gave you a 0.75 because I wasn't sure how specific bio was, but I did notice you didn't, to many of us, this would be biological, photosite A. But for you, it clearly means people. So if I were to give you a gestalt again of 1, because what are the gestalts here? Bio and motion.
Right.
And so then I got you up to a 4. So,
yeah. The one on the left for me would just be nature. I wouldn't put bio at all on
and
that.
do you have an ideogram thing for nature?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. I can't wait to hear your talk. I really, everybody, I almost think we can make a talk. No, no, this is good. We'll do it for one of these.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so it looks like nobody else is giving me their CRs. Arthur, did you leave? And Anita, maybe you people didn't do one and you're just watching, which is fine. The viewer is in charge. I am a great believer in that. So let me go and see if anybody gave me. Yes, so I have more sessions. So let's look at Lila's, who came in next. Okay, very good. And let's bring you over here. Can I move here? And I'll just put you under here. Okay, very good, Lila. Did you use the gestalts in any way?
Gestalt, well, I just do ideograms.
Yeah, okay. Okay, no problem. When I do a recheck of how I think the judging should be, and as I say, we're just starting to go back to the very high score ones. Just to make it a little bit more analytic, I'm going to use that. It doesn't look like anybody else is picking up on it. And again, the viewer's in charge. But let's look at what you did here. You gave yourself a 4 with lots of good B's. Let me see if I see gestalts here. Oh, so you have an ideogram on, oh, that's right. You do your ideograms on the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you do those first.
And to me, those were more fluid, which is what the ice skating is to me.
Yes.
Fluid.
So that's what this is. Definitely fluid.
That's what that is.
That's the
yes.
See,
yes.
and that's where the semi-intuitive part comes in, and that's an easy leap. That's not a hard leap, but you know. Okay, very good. Yeah. So you made both those B's. Large man-made structure. Why are you laughing?
Well, because I look at the structure of the people. Well, they're people.
Right.
So I don't know. I think I was kind of stretching it a little.
I think so.
Well, you're in a man-made structure. Ice rink is a man-made building, typically.
Okay.
Well, and here's a stage.
Sure it is. Yeah.
And they have a spotlight on them, so it's an indoor production. So it's easily.
Actually, you know what? That's right on.
What?
The laugh was appropriate, though.
Okay.
Not to take the person as a structure. That was worthy of the laugh. But indeed, you were right. Your consciousness. This is clearly a large man-made structure.
Well, and then I got the idea for something grease and electrical smelling, mechanical. See, my sounds are mechanical, and of course you need all that for an indoor ice rink.
Yep.
So, nice. I don't know.
Cold, It's
Did you
good.
get a temperature?
Yeah, my
Yeah.
temperature is cold.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get
It's funny,
indoor?
normally,
Did you
I didn't get anything
indoor?
indoor. No,
Outdoor?
no,
Or
nothing
or
indoor.
outdoor? You didn't get either.
Does anybody know
No,
what
I
time of
didn't
year
either.
that berries come out? Spring or something like that?
Oh yeah,
Some.
fall, summer and fall.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least here in California, they do.
Right. Okay. So
Yeah.
very good. Let me just count. The fluid and a man-made structure. You got this gestalt, and look how different it is. From this, that would not be the gestalt from here. So I mean, that's really kind of cool in terms of going for this distinction that I'm talking about. You really made a
Hmm.
great distinction here. And then,
I also seldom pick the color pink
oh,
to put
okay.
down, and they're definitely wearing pink.
Oh, yeah, that's a dominant color.
And I thought the background looked kind of charcoal
It's certainly dark.
as opposed to black. It was dark, yes.
Yep, yep. And you see, the beauty of this technique is you got 1, 2, 3, 4 colors out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you got 66%. You got 2/3 of the colors. And in one
Hmm.
small way, that's the way this whole thing works. Because, let's just do it really quickly here. I'm going to count the number of bees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.5, 6.5, 7.5, 8.5, 9.5, 10.5, 11. Um,
Hmm.
okay, so you got 11 bees. Let's just do it, and now let's count the total that you have. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Hmm. I'm not going to count sketches. I probably should. 30, 31, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. It's interesting you made this a B and this an A. They're pretty close, but okay, so I'm going to say 32. That's close to 0.3. On the Gestalt, again, if I give you a 1, and Joe at one point said they were either 0 or half or 1. I talked to him and he said no problem with anything in between. But this being 0.3, that's a 1.3. Let's go see if I can find this. And 1.543 put you right at 4. I like this. I like this. Okay. Very good. We got it. Thank you,
Thank you.
Lila. Let's look at another transcript here. Wait, this was John's. I'm just trying to clear off I've got so much stuff open. Okay. And I don't know what that is. Is that a transcript? Yeah. Oh, there you go, Arthur. Okay. Let me first put you in my table here. Okay. And yeah, you do that. We don't know that for sure yet. That A is yes and B is no. That's one of the beauties of this thing. But what did you give your A and B? Did you give them CRs, Art? Are you still here? Or did you leave me? Arthur? Here, wait, you have to turn off. Oh, I turned off your mic. You here now, Art?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good. Did you give confidence ranking? Oh, there they are, right there. 3.0 and 3.5.
Yes.
Am I reading that right? Okay. Now, would you want to consider that a pass based on there
Yeah.
being too close?
I have so mixed concepts about what I did here.
Okay.
So I see a lot of elements with the a lot of fingers and shingles and that sort of thing, which should of course apply to the berries. But on the other hand, I see that in the dancers too. I see
Right.
that right in the center, the middle where you have there's a V right there where the man's arms are outstretched. I have it down below where it looks like a ship's ship's bow right there. So I have that part of it. I hit that one, I think, or his legs there, which I don't see anything like that in the in the A photo site. But
Right.
that's just one. But the rest of them, I get a lot of shingles and right in through there, the shingles, and then right, that could be leaves or whatever. I don't know. It's just I got it down from what I just quickly just grasped.
Right. And that's the right thing to do. Yeah, and the way you say fingers, it's not like people's fingers, and so it's just like you said, it could be both.
It's long and short, so
Right.
it varies more than the person. On the other hand, it is a part of fingers are a part of a person, so I don't
Right.
know.
Okay, I look at this and you know, for Gestalt, just because of the way you did fingers and everything, I don't see a strong Gestalt on either.
I don't either. Yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like the matches are okay. I would recommend, and you suffered with this and judged them. You sort of were saying leaning towards B, but in we, this would go as a B prediction. I would really recommend that you change this to a 3.5 or this to a 3 to make it a um, pass as opposed to a prediction, especially in we because it becomes part of your record. And we always looking to get our records high.
Well,
So
yeah, all in all, probably I would lean then towards the A part because there's one right in there where it says right. I overwrote Targ over it. It looks like looks like the fingers intertwined. That sure is a berry to me.
okay.
That's
So would you want me to make this a 3.5, or I can leave it as a 3? I don't care, but I'm just forcing you to make a judgment.
well. It's hard. It's hard. I would go with. I wrote down B, but I probably would change it to A in all probability. But I would just assume pass on it.
No, and Arthur, that's really what I would recommend.
Yeah, right.
This makes it a pass in the system. It's saying, hey, look, guys, it's just too close. Um, a 1 is okay. I think when they were different by 1, I just can't remember Alex's results, but you were up at like 60%. But when they were different by 2, it was up at 75%. Some numbers like that.
But if I were to measure it in segments,
Yeah.
I would tend towards A.
Interesting.
So
Okay, well, that's here on the record. We'll see what the final outcome is. Why did you put A yes and B no?
so I could identify my target.
No, but A is not yes necessarily, and B is not no necessarily. We do not know that. So that's important for you to appreciate. The yes and no are randomly associated with photosite A and B. Okay? So until we do, and that's because I don't want that. It's a kind of judging front loading, and we don't want that to be any part of this. And we won't know that until we put in the final prediction. So in the future, Arthur, just know that you do not know that. Okay?
Then I don't know which one is which to
Yeah.
identify which is the winner.
No, yet. All you know is photosite A versus photosite B. Later, we'll see which is yes and no. Okay? But as a judge, all you're judging is photosite A the best match or photosite B. And in your case, you passed, though you were leaning ultimately towards B, even though you judged it differently. But I think that's the word you used. But all you can do as a judge is indicate which photosite gives the best match. Okay, so please understand that.
Okay, all right.
So you just didn't need to put this here. That's all. This was
Okay,
the key thing.
all right. I don't understand that, but I will do that from here on in. But I don't understand why what photo then matches the winner or loser.
It's in the computer. The computer did it randomly at the very beginning. And you're about to find out once I fill this out. So we're going to know before we leave here. So just hang in here. But as the judge, you don't know. That's the only point I'm making to you, which I think
Okay.
you would. So as a judge, you don't know, but you will find out by the end of judging because you have to take action. So you have to know then. So we give it to you at the latest possible time.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Art.
Thank you. Thank you.
And let's go to Lynn. Okay. Okay, Lynn, here we are. So I think we want to probably move this up. There we go.
So my ideogram, I don't have as a definitive method as John does, but when I do see loops, I do tend to think of those as people. So,
Yeah.
and it really felt, and so then when I write, after I do my ideogram, I do the Gestalt, and I kind of write down my first impressions, and it just felt like there was motion and shapes, but I also put water and natural man-made.
Big shape.
The colors were just a mismatch, not too descriptive of either one.
Right.
Shapes, I got really something linear and geometric, but there was more emphasis on the linear aspect of defining the shapes. So I don't know about that. Sounds, the only thing there, I was really I got like a clinking sound, like ice cubes in a glass I put. So it'd be B. Tastes, I got nothing. Taste. Smells, I kept getting a really strong, I think it was formaldehyde smell or something. So
I wonder where you went. It's like when the remote viewers go to the wrong place, it's like you went someplace.
Yeah, definitely.
It wasn't either of these targets.
No, so I really didn't get too much of any of them, except I did at my AOL, I got a Christmas tree, which is kind of like A.
Oh.
But when I've been practicing doing the targets, it seems always like my ideograms are usually the ones that are on, even though later on I get data and I put it down and I think matches another one. It's always the ideogram. It's always that initial, like you said, that initial first impression that I have found through experience.
If you would really keep personal records of that, really keep really good personal records of that, because this ideogram is so clear. Not only do we get person, but I'm getting dizzy looking at it. No, really. And if it turns out that your ideograms are that suggestive, you might have a different technique than John has, have to understand so much of this is so personal, and you might be able to build on that very nicely. Um, you know what I'm saying? You know,
Yeah.
John and I disagree, I think, actually a little bit. I used the word pictogram before, and the CRVs do not consider these to be pictograms. I consider them, for me, again, personal for me, to be a combination of both. I do have things just like this, which mean people to me, and a rectangle to me means a structure. Um, um, but often I have seen things in there that sort of mirror shapes in the target. Now that's me. And I've in fact now encouraged myself to do that. I have no problem doing that. And when it's clear to me that that was what was the meaning that my subconscious was trying to give me, I'll go with that. So, I wouldn't discourage you from continuing. In fact, I would encourage you to continue paying attention to this, um, period. So, okay, good. Thank you. And there's nothing wrong with passes. I think as time goes on, you're going to hear me continuing to say that. Now let's go get Millie. And okay, Millie, I see your score. And good, I see your A's and B's. Let me get back up the pictures. Let me close that. Okay. Okay, you've got a mic, Millie. Are you still here? Nice to talk to you a little bit about this. You gave each of them a 3. You're a little low.
Okay, I just turned it up. Is that any better?
Yeah.
Okay, it's better now. Okay.
Okay, so you don't use ideograms. Oh, but you did your percentages. Very nice. Okay, so this is the second. What did you give yourself as a Gestalt?
I got confused on the grading, but I thought it would have been A. That thing at the bottom, it's like those lines.
Right.
Yeah.
So those could be the legs and the arms very easily as well, couldn't they? Not quite oriented, right? But
yeah. So I'm not used to using that way of doing it. So it's like practice for me right now for the Gestalt.
Right.
And that's kind of like, yeah, so that's why.
But to come up with the 2.8, I mean, I'm really glad you did the ratios.
I gave it a 0.5.
For both of them? Or for...
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and that led to a 2.8. Terrific. And John, who uses straight targ, and I can look at it as straight targ. Let's just see. Well, here you have fruit. Yeah, that's pretty strong. No, that's pretty strong on A. That's pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, this probably would go up to maybe as high as a 3.5 with that. Right? Don't you agree that this is a pretty strong Gestalt?
Yeah, I was wondering if that was AOL because it was too specific. That's why I didn't give it a higher score.
Yes, okay. That's fair. Though the smells were fruity smells, and then the AOL went to watermelon. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
But did you get the fruity smell first?
I think I got juicy first.
Okay, from your subconscious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but at least we're talking about it. You understand. You have to make judgments like you just made, which are fine. But that's a pretty strong Gestalt. Ice cold. Yeah, they're clearly on an ice rink. So that you could certainly give to B. Do you see that with the
Oh,
judge?
I didn't realize they were in states. I saw
Yeah,
that just now after
you
you
have
said
to
it.
look.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to see this.
Okay. All right. I got it now.
Yeah, I'm telling
Okay.
you, the judging has all these subtleties into it. Thumping, humming, don't know about that. Fast, yep, you mark that as a B. Interesting, fast and standing still. It,
I did that because the picture, maybe they're in a pose. I'm not sure.
yeah, we might not know, but during their routine, it's easy to infer that both of these would be going on. So I think that's fine. Okay, I have no problem with this being a pass.
Her
Largely,
color, her colors seem to be a good gestalt too because it says glittery, sparkled, straight line, lights. Isn't that kind of indicative of B?
yep, and she marked BB here. Yeah, the sparkle might even be a B, sparkling off the skates.
Would that be a gestalt though? Because it's kind of like a cluster of common descriptors for
Well,
B.
that's a good question. I think you'll have to use some sort of judgment. In other words, if you saw that first, would that come out? And maybe, she's sparkly there. Hey, there is no authority quote out there. There are opinions, and I could give you an opinion, but and some people might give you a strong opinion and say yes or no, but I would put that in the gray area. But I understand what you're saying. All three of those words together capture a lot of this.
The image that I couldn't describe was like a spotlight coming down in a directed light, in the sense of like not like overhead lights, like all over lighting everything, but a specific light
Where did
coming
you?
down on it. That was when I was trying to explain the straight line lights, was like a directed light at like something, but it's not like lighting the whole auditorium or
Interesting.
something. I didn't know how to say that. I tend to grade myself low on purpose. Maybe it's a subconscious thing where I don't think I want to be good at it. So I intentionally do grade myself low all the time on this.
Oh, that is such an important insight. I wish other people would be open to getting those kind of insights. You said you don't want to be good at it as opposed to you don't think you're good at it. That's really very interesting.
Yeah,
You might want to work on that. I could ask you, why don't you want to be good at it? Why too much? Once you get good at it. I actually do know, because this is a feeling I think almost all of us have had at one time at all. Once you start getting good at something, there's a lot more pressure to continue being good at it. In fact, I have a quote which says that from, I think it was a violinist. I can't remember his name now. And he said one of the worst things about being an acknowledged top violinist or something like that is that you have to keep being good. So you may have some of that. Okay, Millie, thank you. Let's do Lori. Here you go. Let me get that one off. Let me turn that down. I'm getting a little faster at this. Oop. Well, almost. Okay, let's see. Lori, I don't have you in my table. Okay, so you passed.
I had a hard time typing. For some reason, the keyboard wasn't working too well, and I got behind.
Okay, but what CRs, just to fill out the table, what CRs would you give for these?
A would be 3.
8?
And
Uh-huh.
grade would be 3, and 4 would be,
And B would be a 3 as well?
you would be a 4.
Oh, it would be a 4. But nevertheless, you want to pass because it's too close.
No,
Oh, you
I had
said,
time to look at it while you were doing everybody else's, and
okay.
I thought that all the Gestalts are most like 4. Find out if 4 of the Gestalts were for B and 1.5 were for A.
Okay. Okay. So let's see.
And I like the sketch of the shoe because I had a feeling that those laces were important and that they were, like. And then when I saw that she's wearing skates, I thought, oh, that's what it was. Yeah, I took a pass.
Okay. So you do want this to go into the record as a pass?
Yeah, but I think it's probably B.
Leaning towards B. Okay. And you thought that independent of everybody else here?
Yeah, I think the other people like A, don't they?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's good that you said that. Okay. Now, just so you understand, Lori, in the system, and I know you're using the Wii system, if you really wanted to show as a pass, you'd have to make the 4 a 3, or you have to make these two the same. Okay? Or bring this down to a 3.
This doesn't go into the statistics anyway, does it?
This doesn't. No, but that's what I just want you to know in the Wii system, when it
Yeah.
does, that
Okay.
if you decided you wanted it to be a pass, they both have to be below 3.5 or the same. Okay? So the default
Let me just go for B then.
it's what?
Let me just say B.
Okay. There we go. But okay.
Yeah, I wrote down what you said about the 3.5 or the same.
Okay, you got energy, you got biologicals, you got human-like. Yeah, your gestalts are clearly with B. So you would definitely have a higher score for B. Do I see any gestalts for A? Well, natural. That's a gestalt for A. Okay, I actually agree with your final judging here.
Oh, thanks.
And we don't know if we're right or wrong, but I agree with the final judging for better or worse.
Okay, thank you.
Again, that's opinion. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
Okay, so that is everybody. I don't think I missed anybody. If I did, say so. So let me bring over the table, which is here. Yeah. I'm just having a hard time grabbing it. Oh, that's because it's full screen. Okay. Okay, so here you now can see all of them. And my approach, well, this is a pass, so I'm not even going to mark these two. And so this is really as a group judge, and this is what I'm doing more and more is just using the CRs. I am counting on people getting their CRs right within one, that they're doing it reasonably well, which is within one of what a lot of other judges would do. Oh, no, I'm not going to do that. So this is sort of easy. So the group prediction. Group prediction is B. See, now we don't know what B is yet, but we'll find that out and shortly. And we have 3 4s. Okay, so I'm going to save that. And now we go back to here. So now we've done the judging, each of you, of course, would only do your own, and then you put it in here. And, oops, let me quickly look at the other one here. Well, again, ignoring that. Yeah, a 3 is. Okay, so this we're going to make a 4 based on 4 of these. And this, I'm going to make it a 2.5. Just because the sense, again, I'm paying attention to differences now, and this is saying that the difference is 1.5 rather than 1. Okay, group had 3 CR equal 4s. Now, when I submit it, I already know we're predicting whatever is associated with PhotoSite B, and I'll click this, put in a comment, and the answer is no. So for the first time, we know that PhotoSite B was associated with no. So, and in fact, it says it here. For this coordinate, PhotoSite A was randomly associated with yes, and PhotoSite B was associated with no. So we have now predicted no. Ooh, that's interesting. On will the you probably can't see this. Will the New England Patriots win? It turns out they are the favorites. So I may very well wager wisely with the no. Okay. Anyway, we always try to make predictions where you can take some action, and that is the action on this. And so this is the no answer is the underdog, as I recall. Okay, so now let's finish our presentation here. So we did the judging. I told you again about that. And I hope you're not getting tired of this kind of finish, but I think it is so important because what you're doing, and notice I put in quotes here, and the you should be in quotes, is there's a much deeper you than the you we usually day to day think of ourselves as. And that is the you that is entangling between the remote viewing session when you're wearing your remote viewing psi hat and the feedback session when you're wearing your feedbacker psi hat. Those two sessions are what are connecting things. And that's outside of space and time. You're a rather marvelous individual, you are. And so it is a kind of telepathy because it's you at two different times, but at those two different times, you're almost like a different mind. Your mind has certainly changed, but it is still telepathy with a deep you. And just keep enjoying this. We are on something which is so mysterious and magnificent here. We're discovering really, I don't know, I don't want to call it new because it's been around forever, but it's a part which we don't use. It's almost as if a blind person is beginning to see, and as a society, that's what's beginning to happen here, I think. And what this demonstrates, and what we really know to be true, but you don't usually think about it this way, is that your present life and every now moment in your present life is in fact entangled with and influenced by. I mean, from your feedback session, you influenced yourself earlier. So you're entangled with your future life experiences. And you can do things on purpose to affect the past, and it won't seem like you're doing it, but you are, just like your feedback session is affecting your remote viewing session, because all of your life is entangled together in a wonderful, mysterious web. So with that, I still can't come up with a better ending than I wish you all healthy, wealthy, and wise lives. So questions, comments? Yeah, that's a good quote. I'm looking at the box here. That's good, Lila. Okay. Let me just share. Okay, it looks like we're done. Let me just share one thing with you, because it's going to change the nature of these Wednesday APPI webinars. The first Wednesday is going to be like this. I want to keep doing this and make predictions and talk about old predictions. But the second one, it just seems like twice a month is getting to be too much. You're just saying the same thing over and over again. I want to make it educational, but at a different level. For example, in 2 weeks, I'm going to take on the issue of quantum computers and the fact that I believe, and I'm going to make a case for this, that you are a self-programming quantum computer. And I don't think I'll say any more now. You'll have to wait 2 weeks. But trust me, I can make a pretty good case for that. And that's what I'm going to be doing in 2 weeks. And all of this is designed to have all of us build up more and more kind of confidence and have the intellect know that this capability really isn't as strange as it might seem at first. Entanglement, non-locality comes from the quantum mechanical world. And if you can really appreciate how much of yourself is quantum mechanical, I think it makes it easier for you to get to the point where you can say, I can do this. I can do this regularly. This is sort of natural. I don't know why I haven't done it earlier. Anyway, that's where I'm heading. So that's going to be on the second Wednesday of a month, more pure educational. And maybe we'll do a prediction. I'm still thinking about that, depending on how the time goes. Okay. Any last questions, comments? Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Marty.
And yep, we'll definitely all stay in touch. You have a good day, and I'm going to
Thank you very much.
Right.
Marty, I wonder, were we supposed to get our feedback target on this?
Well, remember.
What we did today?
No, remember, the question is, will, and this is always the case, you don't get the question until the outcome. And the question was about the Super Bowl game, which isn't going to happen until February. So just like the feedback we got earlier today was from a month ago, the feedback of the session we did, you're not going to get until after the Super Bowl game, because we don't know if the Patriots will win or not.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Right. So,
okay.
I mean, you talk about precognition, that's what we're doing. And we're also doing this in much longer time scale than the normal we predictions. So we're actually performing that sort of experiment right now, which I don't think has ever been done in a month plus.
Okay.
Okay, you all.
Thank you.
Right.
Bye.
Take care now. Bye. Keep precogging.